So I would say my favourite movie of all time, well, definitely one of them is Cannibal Holocaust, and that's because it's too clever for its own good. Really, it's a very intellectual movie. It was ahead of its time. It's very in your face and packs a punch with its message. It maybe is a bit too exploitation, but I love exploitation movies, and I think it's a well crafted film, a well made film, considerably good storytelling, really well edited. It's even shot fantastically. It's just generally a really good film. It's very strong the stomach, but it leaves a message with you, and it leaves an impact, and it stays with you for many years after viewing it. So I think it makes it a really good film. And I'd say Ruggero Deodato is one of my biggest influences because of making that film, and also he went on to make other films I love, like House on the Edge of the Park. I love as well. He did other great. I think he's just generally a good filmmaker, but he is a big influence of me. I also do love filmmakers like John Carpenter because of the atmosphere and tension he created with Halloween and almost giving birth to another kind of style of slasher film. You had Psycho, but then you had Halloween, which is the kind of grandfather of slasher films. Psycho's like the great granddaddy, but like he created the kind of stalk and slash and like the stereotypical villains that you get in horror films. I do love Lucio Fulci. Like I love his films and style. I love a lot of the Italian cannibal and zombie 70s and 80s video nasties. They're all kind of big influences to me. And I just respect a lot of indie underground filmmakers and how they just go out and do it. I mean, a real big influence of me was Andreas Schnaz from Germany to doing violent shit because I just love the attitude of I want to make a film, let's get some people together, let's do what we can, spend a few weekends shooting it and releasing that, and their attitude towards it and what they've achieved with it I find really inspirational. So he's a massive influence of mine. Working on Disorder was actually really good. I loved it because filmmaking can be a hard, grueling process, but Disorder was very fun to make. A lot of the people there were into the same sort of thing and understood what we were trying to achieve. There was no real egos there. Everyone just wanted to have a good time and make some crazy piece of film, an underground film. So I thought it was a relaxed atmosphere. It was fun, and everyone was on the same wavelength. So it was a good shoot actually. I enjoyed it. It was been one of my better shoots over the years. When I work on a project personally, there's like two sides to me. I go out and do projects because I kind of have to, paying bills, and I don't mind doing them, but I always try and like to bring something creative to it. But if I'm personally on the hunt for a personal project, then I like something that appeals to me. And to be honest, I like dark subjects and taboo. I like exploring forbidden areas. So anything with a dark storyline and a bit of a twisted way about it, something to be a bit different and stand out and unique. And Disorder brought some of those as well. There was some very dark subjects happening in Disorder, which was very appealing to me. I love creating dark atmospheric lighting and creating a really dark and dingy mood, and that film lent itself perfectly to that because of some of the scenes in it. So anything I can be experimental and get dark with is very appealing to me. I got involved with the film Disorder because I like the people involved. I love working with Kieran, and Martin was a great actor to work with. I'd spoke to Martin previously, and I knew he was up for a lot of crazy stuff, and I wanted to do more with him. So this was a great opportunity to work with him properly on set. And then I'd done some stuff with Kieran. He was a real up and coming filmmaker who had done some great stuff. He's on the same wavelength as me. Loves the same sort of thing. So I just thought this was a perfect opportunity to work with a cool group of people who love the same sort of genre of films as I do. Yeah, I'd love to work with Kieran again on stuff because we've gone on to do a few short films and stuff, and they've all been really good. There's been great atmosphere on sets, and I get very distracted talking about films and getting into this whole this love of movies. But that's what's so good because the passion's there and the fun's there. And like being on a film set's kind of my social life anyway because I'm a bit of a hermit editing and doing stuff. So when I'm let loose on a film set and get to hang around with people that are into the same sort of things as me, it's really cool. So I'd definitely be working with him again because just sharing that love and passion for that underground cinema. Working with Martin was great because I think Martin doesn't have many limits. It's certainly hard to find his limits, and it is rare these days. A lot of actors can be a little bit inwards or reserved. Martin just completely loses it, and he's in the zone, and he don't care. I think Martin's got a lot of balls. I do love how far he's willing to go for his art, and his attitude towards it's great. And Sammy was good to work with on this shoot as well. To be fair, she was a little bit thrown in at the deep end. Um, she was relaxed, to be fair, and she was very trusting, and she certainly gave a natural good performance. Martin was just fantastic at doing it because he had a hard role. He was playing two roles, and it's really hard making film for an actor, because theatre's more like you stand there and give your performance. With acting, you have to stop, start, keep doing it, and he was doing that for two characters, and then he had to shoot one character, then jump into the other one. That's actually a really hard thing to do, and the fact that Martin got on and done that with not that much prep either, to be honest, he pulled that right out of the bag. So I found him really professional and good to work with. Most people were there, really, and I'll say Sammy had to play dead for a while, so she had the easier task of lying there as a corpse for a bit of it, but did have to go through the ordeal rape scene, which, that's never an easy thing to shoot for cast and crew, and she was a real pro about it and just got on with the job at hand. So actually easier to work with than some others that have been in those situations on film sets. Personally, the toughest thing for me about getting Disorder done was maybe the rape scene, because I wanted to shoot it in one take as the cinematographer to make it impactful and not cut. I wanted to do one shot. So that's actually quite hard. I love unbroken shots and staying in there in the action, but also doing that technically is really hard, because you've got to sort the lighting out and the sound and everything technical, and you're not going to cut, and you've got this one take, and it was quite a long shot, so if anything went wrong we had to reset. So we blocked it through a few times. It was tough because that was the film, I believe, where I ran down the stairs following Sam and went in the living room and fell over the table, but managed to save the camera and holding the camera, but was quite tough because obviously I'm running around doing this unbroken shot, and you've got to be aware of your environment, and it was quite a tight space. It doesn't seem it, but when you're making film and you've got lights and stuff, it makes the space very tight, not much room to move, but as soon as we got halfway through and the shot was working, it got easier. But another tough thing probably is Martin talking to himself, because again, you have to set that up, and I was filming that knowing how that was going to have to be edited and what needed to be supplied to have the edit work, so making sure that logistically that works, and markers and points. Overall, it weren't too tough a film, but they were the two more challenging sequences to shoot from a technical point of view. I would like there to be a Disorder 2, or at least a spin-off with Martin's character, or another film or prequel, or however we do it. It would be great to return to Martin and to team up with Kieran again and have this kind of like new storyline of this crazed psychotic character who I've grown fond of. He's a cool character. I do like it. I think Martin just brought that character to life, and Kieran wrote a very impactful, hard-hitting script. So combined, that was great. So to take that to a new level, or a new film, would be spot on. I'd definitely be up for that. There's no need to ask me twice to get on board that. Be a scene that horrified me in Disorder. I mean, it's quite a dark film in general, but I do think what's brutal is Martin returning home to his wife as a different persona, and assaulting her like that is disturbing and brutal and hard, and doing that to the person you're supposed to cherish the most, that's really bad. It's quite dark, so I found that quite a hard-hitting sequence and part of the story, and yeah, I think it also turned out impactful on the screen, so yeah, that's probably the most harrowing ordeal of the film. There's so many people I'd love to work with and collaborate with. Unfortunately, not all of them are with us anymore. Like, I really liked Umberto Lenz's work, and like I say, Lucio Fulci and stuff like that. So I would have loved to have worked with them. They would have been fantastic. I love indie raw filmmaking. I think I quite like older films, partly because I'm not a big fan of CGI and muscling in and messing with everything, and that happens a lot even in indie films these days. To an extent, people rely on CGI a lot. I'm much more of a practical effects person, so I love filmmakers and their films, like John Carpenter's The Thing and things like that. They would have been great to have worked on. I don't think there's enough of those films being made anymore. People try, but they still fall into these modern traps of filmmaking. So a lot of my old ones are passing on, unfortunately, but I would have loved to have worked with some of these old classic Italian heroic directors. Argento would be a good person to work with, so you never know. He's still knocking around, so there's always hope. Ideas for stories these days normally hit me as I like to take 5 minutes away from the edit and get my head together, and I normally walk the dog and go for walks, and when I'm breathing in the fresh air and out walking on my own and just in deep thought, that's when I piece things together in my head and ideas and stories hit me. That's when I'm at my most creative, and then I rush back and write notes down, or I'll quickly apply a few edit changes, and I try and do it fresh. So having like some fresh air and 5 minutes walk out in the countryside, that's when I'm normally absorbed to new ideas, and can get things together in my head, and have things like worked out and mapped out and developed. So filmmaking for me has been a big part of my life, and I've had a love-hate relationship with it. It's a long story really. Like, I've always been into film since I was like 5 years old. I was watching movies and loving them, and was watching like naughty films and horror films and sneaking stuff out, and I loved them. But it weren't just that. I was intrigued as to why they were made, and why did they do it that way, and how they were made, and all these questions. And at a really young age, I was thinking like that. And I was that into watching films and TV and stuff that I ended up making my own short film at just 10 years old. I picked my dad's camera up and got some friends together and made this real amateur short. I thought I was making like a 3 hour epic. It turned out to be a 10 minute short that my dad edited together on the VCR. But I was alive. I loved it. It was so cool making this film. That I went on and made another short documentary when I was 12 that I did myself, walking around with the camera, real amateur raw stuff. But I was getting tastes of it at a really young age, and I thought I just love making film. I want to do more of this. So I was lucky that I had a really clear indication that I was into movies at a young age. So I went straight from school into college and studied film studies and filmmaking, and did film appreciation on the side and all this stuff. So, and I was exposed to even more world cinema, the world of film, enhanced my techniques. You know, I think you can teach a lot yourself, but studying it was also fun because I got to practice what I'd learned and learn even more, and mix my own skills with new learnt skills. And I ended up making a lot of student films, doing pet projects on the side when I had access to equipment. And through college studying it, that was it. I knew I wanted to work in film. That was definitely it. So I was still a teenager when I was 100% sure that's what I wanted to do. Fortunately, I was able to go from college into freelancing because my tutor's wife worked at the Creative Arts, and I had an investor who was a family friend who helped me get a camera so I could start freelancing, and I was able to freelance filming for their event, and it led straight on. I did, however, go and work in London as a runner on a lot of sets, companies. So I was working for TV studios and companies, being in their offices and on the sets, and that was hands-on learning. That was a different experience because I was learning on the job, and you know, it's alright learning at college, but then learning actually physically on there was also cool. So I had the best of both. So after that year of on set experience, I was freelancing away. Because I was freelancing as a camera and editor guy, I had my own equipment, so I was making my own shorts on the side, and that was a whole nother learning curve as well. Doing your own film was an experience, and learning how to do your own film is different again than learning in the classroom. So it was a real mix and match of learning and what I wanted to do. Really, I've enjoyed my journey. It's been hard though, because it sounds easy and it is. When I was freelancing, there's been some dark moments. You know, the phone might not ring. It's very competitive. It's finding the work. It's doing more soul crushing work to like so that you're able to do the artistic work. So it's a tough game at times, but I've hung in there for many years now. It's been nearly 15 years that I've been full-time freelance filmmaking, and I've still managed to hang in there. So it's been more rewarding than bad, and I don't really regret anything I've done. I've had some great times and great experiences, and met some great people, and had great opportunities. Lessons learnt on filmmaking. There's been many. You know, always learning from your mistakes, always learning, like playing around with techniques. I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think you've got to be very careful who you work with. That's been a big lesson to me, and I have unfortunately had some runnings with people on sets and shoots and before, afterwards, and during. It's been a mixture, and you know, I just it's made me very cautious into actually what projects and who I do collaborate and work with, and that has been a big lesson. But it's also just the more experience you get and the more you make, the more you kind of find your feet. I mean, the biggest thing is for me is over the years of making my own films, I have found my own style and found my own feet and found my own way of doing things. And you know, everyone's got to find their own way in filmmaking. There's no right or wrong answer sometimes. I would say it is probably worthwhile making a short film and experimenting before jumping onto a big feature. I'm glad that I did a few shorts before trying to do a bigger film, because doing a big film or feature length film is really hard work. So having done the shorts and my own little masterclasses there, that had helped me a lot. That was a valuable lesson, and I'm so glad that I was prolific when I was younger and made loads of short films, because that's helped me loads. As a collaborator, I have met some great filmmakers and ended up becoming really good friends with them, and that's generally because we share the same interests of filmmaking and the kind of films we're into and just that whole underground scene and stuff. So, to be honest, a lot of people that I socialise with, I've met through collaborating and through film shoots and film sets and filmmaking. So, it's been a big impact on my life in every aspect. Friends, family, work, it's all, my whole life has been living and breathing films and filmmaking, so it's the only way of life I know these days. So, but I'm still as passionate as ever about it, and it's what gets me up in the morning sometimes, to be honest. Audiences want a lot of things from film, but when you're into indie underground film, then normally they want controversial stuff, taboo subjects, hard hitting things, stuff that Hollywood shy away from, you know, because a lot of people want glitz and glam and big action explosions, but then you want people that want that horror hit, and they seek the underground indie film scene, and when they're on that scene, they want hard hitting, gritty, raw subjects and punched in your face of an impact. So it's hard as a filmmaker to deliver shocking material because it's been done a lot and you're competing against a lot. There's many films out there, there's many things being done, so to be original is quite hard, and to pack a punch is hard, because this day and age with the internet and websites and access to all kinds of crazy stuff at your fingertips, it's hard to shock. People have seen a lot, and I think people are more desensitized than they was years ago. There's a lot that happens in society these days and in the world, so it is hard to shock people. But to do that, you also need to find the right cast and crew that are going to work on that, which is a major problem to me. Finding the right cast and crew who want to work on indie horror films that are controversial and taboo is really challenging. That's one of the biggest challenges I personally, as an indie filmmaker, find, and I think we're faced with. But someone who's into these films, I do like to be disturbed. I like to find that bigger and badder hit. You don't want to go too far, but you do like to find a film that makes you think, disturbs you, moves you, it sparks an emotion. That's an exciting emotion to have. If you're sitting there getting emotion involved in a film and you're disturbed, that's cool, man. I love a film that leaves me thinking, whoa, or like thinking about it, or it plays on my mind. Then I feel like that's achieved something. So that's what I think the audience are looking for, and you've got to deliver that, which that ain't no easy task at times, I must say. I think, yeah, advice to give to indie filmmakers or up and coming filmmakers would be, honestly, never give up. Take the good with the bad, the rough with the smooth. I mean, not everyone's going to like your film. I get bad reviews all the time, and good reviews, and mixed, and from some stuff I think's not very good that I've made people like, and the stuff I think's quite good might not be as well received, and all in the middle as well, everything in between. So I would say don't give up, because there's no right or wrong way. You've got to find your own style and what makes you happy. You're never going to please everyone. Not everyone's going to like your film, so you've got to be prepared for some bad reviews, but that happens with every film. Even masterpiece films or massive big films get bad reviews. No one's ever going to like everything, so just take that with a pinch of salt. Don't let it put you off or stop you. Maybe listen, take advice, or practice and learn, but don't let it put you off, and don't take it to heart. And I used to be too sensitive, and you just got to be a bit stronger-willed, going, oh, I've made this film, it might be alright, you know, but I'm going to make another one anyway. You know, it's good to get input, but whatever happens, I want to make another film. I'm going to take what I've learnt and do it. So just keep going as well. Don't give up. Don't get put down, and just be strong and keep going. And as I said before, try and surround yourself with positive people and a good team. But whatever happens, don't let it stop you from being passionate. Always remember why you was making that film and why you love film. Never let that candle burn out or blow out. Keep positive and just just keep inside you what makes it so exciting to be a filmmaker or a film lover. Just never let that die, because film is an art form, and where would it be without art? Art is such a great thing. It'd be a very boring world without art. Filmmaking is hard in general. It's really hard to get started, because sometimes you don't know where to begin. If you're making your own film and you are a filmmaker, it's like very daunting. But even when you've made a film, the next one provides as many challenges as the previous. So it's hard to keep going as it is starting. So as I say, it is very rewarding and it is great, but it is a hard game. I mean, to get a film shot and edited, and even all the pre-production, it's hard, and any project you do has got its challenges, so it's as hard to keep going as it is to get started. I've tried to remain positive. I've had hard times and down times, but I've always kept that spark that I was talking about, that flame on the candle lit, so I've always managed to get by. But it's problem solving. If something's happening, find a way, or if there really is no other way, just strip it back and just try and weave around with a different kind of idea. As long as you can pick up a camera, which these days you can get a mobile phone with a camera on and film, you shouldn't let it stop you. But it is hard. I understand how hard it is, and I like to be positive and give advice, but it is hard, and I to this day struggle at times. But as always, it finds a way, and just don't be beaten down. I just can't say that enough about just, still try, even if you have to do it on the side and life does get in the way. But always try and come back to it. Never let it dwindle out. Just have to push forward and get through the tough times so that you get the good times and you get the reward of seeing your finished film, which this day and age you can release to an audience worldwide online. So there's no stopping you these days with distribution. It may not be great, it may not make you rich, but you can get your work out there, which wasn't the case years ago when I started. So that's been one of the positive changes over the years. There is an end result with your film. You can get your film out there. It makes a big difference knowing that you're working towards something that you can see finished and get released. That makes it a lot more, gives you a focus to go towards these days. I make films because I love films. I love filmmaking. I love the art form and the form of the medium of film. But I also love movies. I can't watch enough and get enough of it. And that stems back from when I was a kid. One of my early memories, one of the real films that did spark me, was the original Halloween. I watched that at like 5 years old, and that was amazing. Though I loved it. So that was a big influence. That's a big young memory of mine. That film is one of the most responsible films for me, wanting to make horror movies. There's a few others that I watched young that I loved, like Hellraiser, the original Evil Dead, and stuff. But once I'd watched a horror film, I was addicted. I wanted to find the next horror film. I wanted to find a more scarier one, a more creepier one, a more gorier one, and it just went on and led to my love of film just growing and growing and growing. And the more I've delved into film and filmmaking, the more I've discovered, the more film you discover, the more exposure, and it just don't stop. I mean, there's more than ever out these days, so there's always something new to discover and get into in the world of film. So I just love it. But I think filmmaking can be really important to the community, because film can deliver such a powerful message and impact, spark real emotion, cause debate, highlight issues. It can be used for so many things. I've worked on videos for different reasons and been involved for different reasons. There's 101 reasons. So I think it is an important medium to get going, even if it's like family films highlighting issues or sparking conversations or raising topics. It's good to keep it going. I wish there was more art house cinemas around where I live personally and stuff, but it's good to. I've been involved in many community projects with using film, and then it is good to involve community with that art form and giving people opportunities who wouldn't. And I just think it's important for people to experiment with art, because they can release their emotions and tell a story or tell something that's bothering them subconsciously through film. So it can be used for so many things and highlight so many issues and raise so much awareness. It's just important to keep it alive and discuss it, and just keep a presence of it in the community. It's just I think it's very important. It's just great if anything you can link it to, just to get involved. Use your imagination there with that one. fruitful collaborations. I mean, a director's role in film is really important, but yeah, it is a collaborative process. And I think a good director, it is a director that will take time to talk and listen to input from cast and crew members, especially like the DOP and your actors, and work together to create what's best for the scene and the film overall. Um, so I think there's some great stories of that. There are some stories where that hasn't been the case, and that's led to issues and disasters, and it does happen. I think you do have to watch out for egos, but a good collaborative process where everyone's on the same wavelength is good. And Disorder was a good example of that. I think that was a very fruitful collaboration because, we had actors that wanted to give a gritty performance and liked the darkness of it. And then the technical team, which wasn't many, but the people involved, like me, Kieran, and the makeup artists, we all wanted to create a disturbing little film. So it was a really good collaboration because everyone wanted the same thing and get the same result. So, and everyone was thinking of the film and the production, not themselves, which you said makes a big difference. So I think that's really important on a film shoot, to be honest. When I'm collaborating, I try and find people that understand as best as they can why I'm making something and that style of film I'm making. I try and find people that are into that and want to contribute to it. But my filmmaking has been limited sometimes by resources such as finance and money and budgets. I have had ideas before, but I've not thought about how I'm going to do it and why, and they grow too big, and I've had to strip them back. So I have very consciously before also thought I want to do a new film, but in my mind they say you shouldn't, but I know that if I'm making it, limited resources, so I have wrote with that in mind. And it's a shame sometimes it impacts because you can't do exactly what you want to do, but at the same time it makes you think outside the box. So when I have been really restricted, I've had to think out of the box, and actually I think it's brought some of my better work to life. It's made you find resolutions to these problems, and you end up becoming quite creative, and you end up getting even more creative to work around an issue. So actually it can be a good thing. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Restraints aren't the end of the world. So it's made me do some projects I probably wouldn't have done if I had loads of money thrown at me. So then looking back, I'm quite pleased with some of the projects I've done that have had little money. So there's a real positive there, more of a positive than a negative. But it's mix and match. I'd sometimes do get carried away and think, oh, I'll deal with it later. I can't with the idea. So it's not a restraint, just it's when you're on set and you realise, yeah, how are we going to do this? But that can be good. It can be a challenge, and that's where the collaboration can come into play, and the team of you that you've formed can work together to find a resolution, which sometimes can be quite exciting, and you can end up coming up with something better anyway than you originally thought of. So it's all good. It's all good in the end. You can sit there on your phone and watch a film, or you can watch stuff on a watch. It's mental. So I think the impact is there's a lot of people making films now, and there's a lot of competition, and you're a small fish in a big pond now. That's a big thing. But it's also made it so much more accessible to people who are saying, so everyone can get involved in some way. But you can also get your work out there with the internet and like computers and tablets and laptops and PCs and Macs and that. You can whack your film on YouTube and get it seen, or a better site, Vimeo, because YouTube seems to ban a lot of controversial films. But you can get your work seen by the masses, and people with smart TVs can access this on their TV anyway, so they don't have to be limited to computers anymore. So I think it's exciting in some ways because it's just it's made the world open as a filmmaker, and I've got my audience there, and I can reach to anyone anywhere in the world with these sites and with all these screens and access to films. But it has also made it tougher because I have to stand out amongst many filmmakers, and there's a lot of great filmmakers out there. So it's exciting and scary times at the same time. But I'm gonna carry on, and I hope to do many more disturbing films, and I will be working on my new one soon. So watch this space.